Hi, this is Anne-Marie Zanzel and Barb Rowlandson. We are so excited. We are going to be talking to you today about surviving the holidays.
The holidays. Oh,
Yes, exactly. So if you don't know me, I am Anne-Marie Zanzel, and I work with Anne-Marie Zanzel Coaching and Coming Out and Beyond. And I work with people coming out later in life to the LGBTQIA plus community. And Barb is my conversation partner today, but she is also my amazing social media person, and she does all of my content for me. And so she will be joining me in this conversation today. So, hi, Barb, welcome.
thank you for including me in this today. It's a really important topic.
Well, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. So, a couple housekeeping notes. Um, Barb has created a lovely graphic for us, excuse me, a lovely worksheet for us. And if you would like the copy of the worksheet, you can ask Barb for it afterwards. It's called, Holiday Happiness Hacks. And we have a bunch of tips for you. There is a lot on there. I think there's about 17. And we're gonna just discuss as many as we can today. So up first, when we are going through, our first holiday or maybe our second holiday, and we're in the process of coming out. Some of us are in the process of getting divorced, and we have some tips for you. And so the first one is this is really simple, but it's expect it to be different.
For sure. For sure. It's never going to be the same as it was, but it doesn't mean that it can't be great. Might be a little rocky at first, getting used to some new traditions and creating new traditions, getting used to a new pattern of things, not just for yourself, but for your extended family as well. So if you can create that expectation that, okay, it's not going to be the same as it was, and that's okay,
Right.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It doesn't have to be the same to be good.
Mhm. Mhm. And also too, I find that when people are first coming out or when they are first um maybe thinking about divorce or in the separation process or the different or they like, I've got to keep everything the same. I've got to keep everything the same for the kids. And this is the thing, it's not the same. Things are changing and
Guilty.
life is going on. And so I tried to do that too. My first Christmas when I was separated from my husband, it wasn't the same at all because they were at their dad's house and then they were at my house, but a lot of the same things I tried to do again. And they, it just didn't work out very well. So, yeah,
No, and I think
go
when it comes to family too, to like take your kids, if it's kids that you're concerned about, take their lead a little bit if they want to get creative and create some new traditions. Like one of our new traditions that we've done for 5 years now is we've replaced the star in the Christmas tree with a Christmas unicorn. This
ahead.
is my daughter's idea, and
Hmm.
she named him Jeremiah. So Jeremiah goes on top of the Christmas tree every year. Allowing my daughter to take the leadership on making that small change. Um, it I think it empowered her and it made her feel good. And it's become a really, even though it's kind of a silly thing, it's a fun thing. And we've kept it up for years.
Yeah. I not one of the things like so for example, I moved, so I no longer live in the hometown where my children were raised. And my kids live all over the United States because they're young adults, they're in their late 20s. And the thing is that I did keep some things, like for example, those Hallmark snowmen that do the dances. I have like I am not a collector, and it's like the only collection I have of things. And so no matter where I am, and I usually drive if I'm going back up to where they grew up for the holidays, I always bring those with me. So, like sort of mixing the old and the new, what feels familiar, what could be possible for the future. Sometimes, you start a new tradition and, it might last a year or two. And then you're like, this isn't working. So it is okay to tell your kids that, guys, things are going to be a little different this year. We're going to do some old stuff, but we're also going to do a bunch of new stuff, and sort of embracing it in the sense of excitement. A great question for kids would be, what would you like to do? Especially if you have kids over than, like older than 4 or so, what would
Mhm.
you like to do for Christmas? What would you like to, what did you like we did before? So you're sort of more in tune of what, especially those of us who have children, more in tune, which will make their holiday feel familiar and different at the same time.
And it empowers them at a time when maybe they don't feel have like things are in flux for them.
Mhm.
So gives them a sense of empowerment to be able to make those little decisions and make those little changes. And that's a good thing.
Mhm. And you know what else too is the second tip we are giving you is, guess what? You can celebrate on a different day. Ah, I know that sounds like, well, of course I can, and it sounds like almost too like minor to say, but a lot of times people get really, really hung up on the day. So it's next Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the United States. And so, yes, I know you want to celebrate on Thursday, but sometimes maybe you have to do it on Friday, maybe you do it on Wednesday, depending on if you have children, what your custody arrangements are, or what your family does. If you are struggling maybe a little bit with your family right now, maybe planning a Friendsgiving, which can be really, really nice, because then you are with people that you feel safe with and you feel comfortable with, and you are getting to celebrate the day with the positive ways without all the family drama for those of us who are experiencing family drama right now.
That is underscores, I think, a really important point for people within the queer community is that our family isn't necessarily the people that we are related to by blood. It's the people that we choose to be in our inner circle, the people who support us. And lots of us in the queer community know this by default because we have experienced loss of family. So, by cultivating those great relationships with those people who really love and support and accept you, and including them in those holiday rituals like Thanksgiving. I love Friendsgiving. I love that. And reaching out to people who maybe also need a little bit of extra support so you can be mutual support for each other, right?
Absolutely. If you know somebody that maybe might be alone on the holidays, or is going through change themselves, include them if you can. And because it always feels nice to be invited somewhere, even if you can't go, it always feels nice to be really invited somewhere.
That's
Um,
so true.
yeah. Another tip we have for you is, remember why you're doing this. Um,
Yes.
Say more about that, Barb.
Well, I mean, think of it in the other direction. If you wanted everything to stay the same, what would you be having to sacrifice to
Hmm.
keep that traditional Christmas and keep all that togetherness? You're sacrificing a piece of yourself.
Hmm.
And if you are listening to this, I'm going to guess that you have reached a line in the sand where you can't do that anymore. You've mentally, psychologically, physically, emotionally, spiritually cannot hold that piece of yourself back anymore. So you are doing this not just for yourself either. Um, and again, I'm sorry, I keep going back to the idea of kids and kids being a part of holiday because this was a huge piece for me as a
Hmm.
mom, making changes to my family and holidays. And that's an important thing to remember. Like we're not breaking anything, we're not ruining anything, we're just changing something.
Hmm.
So you're creating a new standard where your whole self is accepted, where your whole self is loved and acknowledged, every piece of you. And the people who love you don't want you to be sad. They don't want you to be broken. They don't want you to be in denial. They want you to love and accept yourself too. You are doing this not just for you, but as an example to the people in your family. And if you have children, especially your children, that it is okay to change a relationship if it does not serve you.
It's absolutely true. It is okay to change a relationship if it does not serve you. And that is sort of the hard, it's funny because a lot of times before we come out or before we enter, if we're getting divorced, we enter a divorce phase of our life. A lot of times, people that are not all the time, but sometimes the we've already had a challenging relationship with somebody, and then we come out and get divorced, and the challenge continues. And so, one of the things is that remembering, it's okay to set boundaries with those people, with the people that are really challenging you, and it is okay to be maybe saying, I don't know if I can spend the holiday with you. We have a couple questions coming up at the end, so
Mhm.
we'll talk about those, which a little bit go more into that. Okay, if you know you're going to be alone on the holidays and it's the first time that you're going to be alone, we also need to strategize about being alone. Okay? Because the temptation is when it is your first, second, even third holiday is to crawl into a ball and to not do anything and just, feel sad. And the
Mhm.
thing is that that can be really make it so much harder than it needs to be. It's almost like for some of us, now for our true introverts who love being alone, this may not be a thing. But most people are more on the extrovert, like introvert extrovert line. And
Mhm.
so thinking about ways to do something that to be at least a little busy or have something to look forward to on the
And you know what? I'm just going to interject here and say, if you need to like take an afternoon or a day to turn yourself into a human burrito
day.
and wrap yourself in the blanket
Hmm.
and put your face in the pillow and cry, do
Hmm.
that. Just don't stay there.
Right. Absolutely.
It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry about it. It's okay to have those feelings. And Marie, I don't know about you, but from my experience, and my goodness, I have had a load of grief in my life, particularly around my coming out time.
Hmm.
The the quickest and best way to overcome that feeling of grief is to sit with it.
Yes.
Like to acknowledge that is here. I think Tara Brach, I don't know if you know the work of Tara Brach, but she has a really good metaphor about that. It's like, hello, grief, I see you're here today. Come in, let's have tea, let's sit together for a while. And then the moment passes when you acknowledge it, and then you can move on. Just don't stay there. That's all.
Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes as somebody who's a grief counselor, sometimes it's the thing is sometimes it's really hard not to stay there, especially if you're feeling really in a very vulnerable and difficult place. But Barb, I think, means also too is that if you are wrapped in a burrito and a blanket, that even if you just get up, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, maybe go for a walk
Brush your
because
teeth,
brush
take a
your
shower.
yeah, take a shower. All of those are really good embodiment exercises when you are in a grieving phase. So it sort of brings you back into yourself. And I know a lot of us in the later in life community tend to stay in our heads. And so
Yeah.
so it is a way for us to get out of our heads and back in there. And I have a sense that if you get up and just say, okay, I'm going to take a shower and brush my teeth and go for a walk, or, maybe do a crossword puzzle or watch a movie that is not triggering. If you do something like that, you'll end up really actually feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the next tip we're going to give is, well, we talked about this too, is resist the urge to hibernate. So I think we've covered that, but balance alone time with with company. So
Yes.
okay, so how do you do that? What are some of your suggestions for people? How do you balance alone time? So, say your family's really angry with you. You're no longer seeing your ex-husband's family at this time, and you've sort of built your world around all of this, and it's just right now feel like it's crumbling. It's
Mhm.
not crumbling, it is falling apart, and then we promise you that it will come back together. We absolutely promise you because both Barb and I have done this. Um, so what are some of the suggestions like about like juice not being alone or being with company?
So something that I can suggest, and you know, I know that these people in my own sphere, and I would almost bet money that you have people in your sphere who are like this too. There's other people who whether friends or friendly acquaintances, who are also alone.
Hmm. Hmm.
So earlier you talked about Friendsgiving,
Hmm.
you know, have those people over, get together, go to a movie, go out for a cup of coffee. If it's on a day when things are like really closed, have them over,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, if you feel like it doesn't feel like Christmas, get those people together and have anti-Christmas.
Or you know what, if you are celebrating Hanukkah and you
Yeah.
have always had your family around you, but you have some friends who may not be Jewish, celebrate Hanukkah with them the first night of Hanukkah, because it also is a wonderful lesson to sometimes teach people about our faith traditions when most people I find are extremely open to that and are really curious. So, do something like that. Another couple of things I've always suggested, there are a lot of like food banks and other places you can volunteer in your city if you happen to live in a city, and to maybe serve meals on the holidays or something like that. You just never know what's going to happen if we try that. And also, I'm going to say, as somebody who worked in nursing homes for years, if you are like, okay, visiting people on the holidays in nursing homes, I would suggest,
Yes.
yeah, I would suggest maybe contacting the nursing home ahead of time and
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, I want to come in. I'm going to bring some presents. Do you have two or three men or women that I can visit and wish them a happy holidays and stuff like that?" I'm going to tell you, most nursing homes will be absolutely thrilled if you
I
just.
love this. I try and do this every year.
Mhm.
Because my dad was in a nursing home before he passed away. And now living in a new place, so I'll have to find a new place to do it. But I play
Mhm.
guitar and sing. So at
Mhm.
Christmas, I'll go to the nursing home and, call ahead of time and say, "Hey, I'd like to come over and play some Christmas carols. Can we have a little sing along?" And
Mhm.
guaranteed there's going to be like 20 seniors in the lounge waiting for you to sing those songs. And
Absolutely.
it's music, and again, I'm referring back to Christmas because that's my experience, but there may be other things that you can do around other holidays with seniors, but when it's something that's like so codified, like a Christmas carol in everybody's memory, even people with dementia can do this. They can still
Oh,
sing Jingle Bells.
absolutely. Yeah, and other religious holiday songs as well.
For sure.
And the thing is that, so like as I said, I worked with the people in nursing homes for years, and the thing is if they have like one of those, if they have a memory loss issue like dementia, Alzheimer's, and stuff. If you think about memory, it's like a cassette tape. Those of us who can remember a cassette tape, and it starts to erase, and so often older people that have memory loss can remember like just like Barb said, can remember those things. They can remember jingle bells. They can remember happy birthday. Even if you sing happy birthday with people at or something like that, that can be really wonderful. Um,
Mhm.
and also another way to really help with the holiday spirit when you're struggling is to look into your children's services in your local community, and being able to go and buy presents for kids that really need it and parents that really need to give children
Mhm.
their, holiday gifts. I think those are wonderful, wonderful things to do when, when you're sort of struggling with the holidays. And everything we've mentioned are new traditions. So if
Yep.
you really like one of these, like you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. This may end up being your new tradition for the year, for the years to come. Um, we're going to end with
Sorry, I know I blipped out there for a minute. Can I just interject one more thing? If you are
sure.
feeling like you absolutely do not want to be around humans, go to your animal shelter and walk a dog.
Ah, that's a great idea. That's an absolutely great idea. Absolutely. Um, so the last thing that we're going to end with before we answer some questions is, you know what? You're allowed to be happy. If you are celebrating the holidays and it actually isn't that hard and you're actually feeling relief and you're feeling good, guess what? You're allowed to be happy. You're
Yes.
allowed to have a great holiday. Maybe you have a new girlfriend. You are allowed, maybe you're really glad that you no longer have to be with your ex husband or his family, and it's okay. Um, you know, Guilt is, I have done something wrong. No, you haven't. So I would suggest, if you cannot waste I'm trying to choose my words really carefully here. It's okay to be happy, and you don't have to be guilty if you're happy. It's as simple as that. So if you're having a great holiday, I am so happy for you. Have a wonderful time. And also, too, you may have a part of your holiday might be a little crappy, and then you may have a wonderful time in another area of your holiday. So, you know, it's okay to be happy. It's okay to feel joy. It's okay to be excited. You
Yes.
don't we don't have to be miserable just because we're getting divorced.
No. And it's a moment in time. I think that's something really great that I read from your blog piece about this, is that this isn't forever. This is just a short period of time that
Mhm.
you're gonna have to muddle through. Or maybe you don't muddle through. Maybe you sail through it. How about that?
Mhm.
Maybe you have a great holiday. Maybe your first holiday uh, as an out person has you feeling more joyful than ever. But in any scenario, it's just a moment in time. It's a holiday. It doesn't last forever. So there's an end in sight to this one. So if you are
Mhm.
having a miserable time, then do your best. And in a week or so, it'll be over. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So we had some questions, Barb. Can you read them?
yes.
Thank
Part of
you.
me is I put my glasses. I've got to get bifocals. I mean, I'm fighting this, Anne Marie. I'm telling you right now, it's vanity is kicking in here. But but so we have a question that asks, what's the best way to deal with passive aggressive parents who can't accept my identity and refuses to acknowledge or accept my partner? What do you think about that one, Anne Marie?
So we talked about these before, and what did I say? Don't go. I know we love our parents. I know we love our relatives, but if your parents refuse to accept your identity and refuse to accept your girlfriend or your partner, um, you don't have to be with them. You just don't. And I always believe, now this is what I've learned. It wasn't like this always. I don't I no longer put myself in places that I know are going to be emotionally painful. And it's more of a proven track record. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like this is going to be incredibly painful. And so this year, just this year, it doesn't have to be forever. You can say, I'm not going to come to your house because I love me. I like slash love my girlfriend, and I don't want to put her in a situation like
Yeah.
that. I know that's I know that is it can be really hard to hear, especially for new, especially if we're really used to being with our mom and dad. But
Mhm.
we do not have to put ourselves in emotionally difficult places. We just simply we do not.
And as somebody who's just coming out, you're probably just reawakening to your intuition and trusting your gut. You probably spent a lot of years suppressing your natural feelings. And now that you've made the decision to come out and decision to divorce, you're starting to carve your own path. So this is the time to set the new precedent for you.
Hmm.
And only you could, like, I'm sure you'll agree with this. Only you can decide what your line in the sand is, right, Emery?
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
like nobody can decide a boundary for you.
Right.
So if you decide that what I need, I just cannot deal with my parents this year. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. Then don't do it.
Hmm.
If you've got a feeling like, okay, I want to give this a shot, but like three strikes and you're out, or three strikes and I'm out,
Yeah, absolutely. Like if there's
then
three comments that are just not comfortable for you, whether it's just a little discomfort or major discomfort, then you say, okay, mom and dad, I've got to go. I love you very much, but I'm out of here, you know? And, it's really interesting when I find that when we set boundaries with people we love, um, especially ones that are being extremely difficult, sometimes they come back around. And not all the time, but sometimes that's what ends up happening.
well, I think, you might like those people who you've decided to separate yourself from temporarily for self-protection. They might have a feeling about it. They might feel
Mhm.
strongly about it. They might be a little bit hurt about it. But what it should do, if it's somebody who really, really cares about you, it should prompt some inner reflection.
Yes. And
Why doesn't my daughter want to spend time with me
yeah.
at Christmas?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then hopefully that will start to change the parameters of your relationship when you really start to establish those boundaries.
Absolutely. And it's more like a lot of times, although sometimes we may be 40 something years old, our relationships with our parents can be sometimes childlike still. And so, really learning to set boundaries with your mom and dad. And some of you may have been doing this already for a long time, but learning to set boundaries with family members and your mom and dad, especially if they're challenging, is a
Yes.
really, really great thing to do. So what's our
Mhm.
next question, Barb?
Okay. Question
Class is
number two.
back.
How do I protect my mental health before, while visiting, and after family visitings? I know it's going to be very triggering in so many ways. Well, I think that's a lot like the first question. Um,
But what I would like to say, we talked about this beforehand. So my wife, when she came out, she was disowned by her mother and father, and so she didn't see them for several years. And in fact, she still doesn't talk to her dad. She hasn't talked to him in like 30 years. Um, but the thing is that she just assumed everybody in her family felt that way. And no, they didn't. Her cousins who she grew up with loved her. Some of her aunts and uncles really could have cared less. So, like, it was literally her grandpa, like 2 or 3 years later, said, "Where's Tondo? Why hasn't she been around?" And her mother said, "Well, I don't want to talk about it with your dad. You don't want her to be around." And he said to her, "I know exactly what's going around in Tonda's family, and she needs to be here."
Grandpa,
Yay,
round of
grandpa!
applause, Grandpa. I love you, Grandpa. Oh, win for Grandpa. Yes.
Yeah. And so, but what happened is she realized that just because, and what I'm saying is just because maybe there's a couple members in your family that are giving you a really super hard time, it doesn't mean everybody in your family is. And
Yes.
so if you are going to a family reunion, I mean a family event at the holiday season, find your allies. Find
Yes.
you want maybe a sibling, maybe a cousin, maybe a family friend, maybe an aunt or an uncle that when things get sticky or tough, you can look at each other and make googly eyes.
Yep.
Or maybe roll your eyes, finding who the person is in there to be with you, to be a support to you. And again, with difficult family members, you know, it really is important to set boundaries. But it also, like, so for example, like Barb mentioned before, 3 strikes and you're out, or telling mom and dad you're not going to come this year. Um, and also making plans so that, like, I really think it's, really my second Christmas of my second was my hardest one. The first was hard, but the second one was much harder because the reality of everything really had set in. And so I was working for hospice that time at that year, and so
Mhm.
I did the on call so that my colleagues could just go have Christmas. I was the chaplain on call that day. I got paid for it, so I was on call. Nobody called me, but I was on call. And I also ended up going to my sister's house, like, for Chinese food. We had already celebrated the holiday with my family the night before, and so it wasn't the best. It was really hard because it was the first time, my kids were going over my ex-in-laws and I wasn't going. All of that was really, really hard. Um, but I'm glad I made some plans. And I'm going to tell you, I still cried. I still felt like shit. I mean, all those things like
Sure.
that. But when I look back at it, I am really glad that I made those plans.
Mhm.
I'm really glad I grieved because I was really, really grieving. And it really, like we have said, it was a moment in time. And if you, I have some blog pieces about the holidays out, and there's one that says A Christmas in 4 Parts. And I talk about, because I celebrated Christmas, that,
Mhm.
each one was different. And this one is going to be different as well because I set some boundaries with my family. And I have 4 kids, and I said, I'm not going to be coming to Connecticut anymore on Christmas because I don't live there. And so
Yep.
I would have to have Christmas in an Airbnb. And I don't want to do that anymore. And so all my kids are coming here this year, which is really,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Things change for all kinds of reasons. It's not just about us precipitating change. Things change over time. That's the only constant is that things don't stay the same,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So
Absolutely.
if we can accept to go with the flow of that, okay, things were a certain way for a really long time, and now they are changing,
Hmm.
and not to take on personal responsibility for it, things just change.
Absolutely.
That's okay,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
Well, that's awesome that your kids are coming to you. That's amazing.
I'm excited. So, if you would like to have the handout that Barb has made for this event, please reach out to Barb Rowlandson. I apologize for the technical difficulties. We will not have the technical difficulties the next time around. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to respond on the comment section after you see this video. And Barb and I will do our best to get back to you. We'll respond to you. Um, and reach out to us if you have any more other questions or concerns or things you just want to talk about at the holiday season. We would love to welcome you into Lotus Group Coaching and have you be in our smaller group. So if you would like to talk to myself or Barb about that, please reach out and we'd be happy to fill you in with all the details. So thank you, Barb. You're an amazing conversationalist, and I'm
Oh,
glad you're
shucks. Well,
oh shucks, and I'm glad you're here with me. So we're going to do a whole bunch more of these, folks. So get ready, hold on to
so
your,
looking forward to it.
and we're going to have so much fun. All right, y'all. Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your day, folks.